You gave up a TV job to start a podcast in your basement. If that doesn't scream midlife crisis, I don't know what does.
It was Championship Sunday here in Indianapolis. What's the mindset then coming in as a defending champion?
I want to win. No, I want to win.
The young lady over my shoulder, Caitlin Clark.
Not the best looking guy. And I don't think anyone's going to sit here and say, wow, Matt Randazzo was really good looking.
What has this last month, 2 months, 3 months been like for you? It's an important fan base for the Fighting Illini, is it not?
It is.
He turned 69 years young last week. You look good, Coach.
Oh, try it. Thank you.
Welcome to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a Wednesday in the Quad Cities, Wednesday, September 17. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Back to our normal time. Of course, yesterday we were a 1 p.m. start, had some radio stuff to do in Iowa City, so a little later start. So if you missed yesterday's show, it was a lot of fun. Go check it out. Tom Kakert was on from the press box in Iowa City, kind of giving us our weekly update of Iowa media availability. Pat Enger was on as well. And then we talked a lot of Chicago sports with Larry Hawley, Bears, Cubs, Illini as well. So check out yesterday's show. It was a later start. Got several text messages or messages on social media wanting to know where the show was, which is nice to know that you're missed. But a little bit later yesterday, back in our normal 10 a.m. spot today. If you're watching us live on YouTube, we appreciate that. Thank you for doing that. If you've subscribed, thank you. If you haven't subscribed, what are you waiting for? Subscribe, tell a friend or 2 or 10 about what we're doing each and every weekday here at 10 a.m. Also, if you're watching us live on X, thank you for that. X has been very, very good to us as well. So thank you if you partake in the show on X as well. And then, of course, you can check us out on all the podcasting platforms as well. Spotify, Apple, iHeart, you name it, Podbean, wherever you get your podcast, put in Off the Air with Matt Randazzo, and check out the show. Listen to it while you're working out or running or whatever you're doing throughout your day here in the Quad Cities and around the two-state area in Iowa and Illinois as well. We mentioned yesterday's show, jam-packed show once again here today. Coming up in a matter of moments, it's the bye week for Iowa State. But there is no such thing as a bye week for the hardworking Jake Brend. He'll join us here in a second to talk a little bit about the first 4 games for the Cyclones, how it sets up for the rest of the season, players that have impressed him, a bunch of different stuff. So Jake Brend and Iowa State Cyclone football coming up in just a matter of moments. Also, our good friend Kyle Huesmann from the Hawkeye Report just recently sat down with Jan Jensen at Iowa for about a half hour. Great conversation. He'll be here to kind of fill us in on some highlights of that as well, what Iowa fans can expect coming up this season. Also, what Coach learned last year. 25 years at Iowa, but her first as a head coach. So great conversation with Kyle Huesmann coming up later in hour number 1 as well. In hour 2, we'll turn our attention to high school football. Week 4 of the high school football season is here, which is wild. It's already week 4. We'll go to the TRAC like we normally do on Wednesdays. WRMJ's Ty Taylor will join us to break down another busy week in the TRAC as well. And then last but certainly not least, Ness Guess, week 3 is ready to rock. We'll have your week 2 winner. We'll have Ness on. We recorded a segment at Hungry Hobo by Browning Field yesterday. So ton of fun. We'll talk our picks this week, get your weekly winner from last week, look ahead to the upcoming week. And also we want to thank Hungry Hobo, our exclusive sponsor for the Ness Guess contest. 40 years almost of Quad City tradition here in the Quad Cities, back on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo, and we're excited to bring it to you. A few notes before we get rocking and rolling. On Friday, we will be at Assumption High School taking the show on the road. Assumption and West that night. Assumption got their first victory last week. I think it's a really good football team. I think they'll play better throughout the season. They're also celebrating their 20 years of their dome team. So we'll have Wade King down there, Nate Gilbreth. We'll preview all of the high school football on the Iowa side. We'll also have the boys from View from the West on Friday previewing the Illinois side of the river as well. So we'll also have mobile party experiences there. We'll have some food, a bunch of good stuff. So Friday should be a bunch of fun. Friday's a busy day for me. We'll be in at Assumption to start the day. And then, of course, the Hawkeyes play Friday night. So we will be live. I will be live from Big Grove Brewery in Iowa City for the Hawkeye Tailgate Show from 5 to 6 later that evening. So if you're in the Iowa City area, stop by. Great drink specials, great food, great place to watch Iowa football. So come join us. Get your weekend off on the right start with the Hawkeye Tailgate Show on the Hawkeye Radio Network here in the Quad Cities' new home. For the Hawkeye Radio Network, it is Vintage Radio 107.7 WQUD. So tune in and enjoy that as well. Also, don't forget, late Friday night, after all that, I'll be on the View from the West Instant Reacts podcast at 10:15. So a lot to get to on Friday, but that's Friday. Today is today. Busy show. One little news note. Cubs won yesterday. Their magic number is at 1, and I figure what a better way to start my day. I know we're talking Cyclones, but it seems like we always get kind of down that Cub rabbit hole when we chat every week. Huh? It's important to get in. Like, I think the people that don't enjoy it and celebrate it are silly. It's a big thing to get into the postseason. Magic number, Jake, 1.
So 10 years ago, Jake Arrieta goes out to Pittsburgh, not only kills the Pirates, he buries them 10 feet in the ground. They still haven't made the playoffs since. What happens 10 years later? The reincarnation of Jake Arrieta goes up against the Cy Young winner. Cade Horton just dominates the Pirates. I sound cocky, but
no.
I'm cocky on days when Cade Horton pitches. Other than that, I'm unsure, but you just got to get in, see what happens. I want the Brewers. I want it more than anything.
Yeah.
Give me the Brewers at Wrigley and see what happens.
You want a seat at the table, and that's all that matters. And it's how you're playing. We'll talk Cyclones, Cyclone fans. I promise. I know I put that out there. Jake's coming on to talk about. But when you look at this, what will it look like for the Cubs? If they're going to have success in the postseason, what does it look like? Is it Cade Horton pitching gets good? Is it PCA regains form? Kyle Tucker comes back healthy and they just mash? What does it look like if it's going to be good in the postseason?
Yeah, I think it's just the top of the lineup getting back. They don't have to be back to their May level. Like I think all of those guys were pretty clearly like 1 or 2 standard deviations above their mean.
Yeah.
But if you can just get PCA, Suzuki, Bush, all of those guys back playing at an MVP, not MVP, at an all-star level,
yeah,
I think that's what it takes. And then I'm guessing the wind blowing in at Wrigley won't hurt with Shota and Boyd pitching, and just got to get it all coming together, get the offense rolling again.
It's been nice to see PCA play well because, what was he, 25 bombs at the break, and he's like at 28, 29. Same thing with Seiya.
Yeah.
Seiya was like at 25, and now he's at like 27. So, like, it's been interesting that they've continued to find ways to win despite their best players not playing really good second half of the year. So, okay, enough Cubs stuff. We're going to keep that in the back of our mind, though, because we'll probably talk more, just as much Cubs in October as Cyclones.
Hopefully November too.
Yeah, that works for me as well. It's the bye week. Have you just slept till noon every day and like just eaten crappy food and not done anything? What's your week been like? I know that's not the case, but do you get to enjoy the bye week at all?
Oh yeah, I worked a very, very light Tuesday, which was nice. Tuesday is usually my busiest day during the week, so I watched the whole Charlie Sheen documentary, got a good workout in, grilled up some steak. So it was a bit of a personal day, and now we're back in the thick of it. A good healthy Wednesday, and then we'll get into Arizona next week.
Yeah, Arizona is next week. I want to kind of finish up with Arkansas State, or not finish up, but kind of put a bow on that before we move forward. And we talked last week, and I think you had Arkansas State covering the spread, and they played well. It wasn't pretty. Those games are going to happen.
Not at all.
I know that it's funny. You listen to this little social media world of ours, and it's like the sky is falling. They're not very good, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. You kind of expected it. And in the grand scheme of college football, there's going to be days and weeks that you just don't play very well. And if you walk away with a win, hell, that's all that matters. Nobody's going to remember a lackluster Arkansas State game, come December, are they?
No. And to me, it looked like a team that had gone across the globe to play one of their biggest rivals in a very, very emotional game, great atmosphere. A team that came back, played their first home game in front of a charged atmosphere, kicked the crap out of an FCS team, then played their biggest rival, beat them in an emotional game, and then flew down to Memphis, stayed in Memphis, took a charter bus an hour to Jonesboro, Arkansas, and played a group of 5 team in 100-degree weather. That's what it looked like to me. They looked tired, but they got out of there with a win. And that's the important part.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Can we still talk about like why in the world they're still going down there? And I know they're going to Bowling Green or something in 2 years. And I know that Jamie Pollard said it saved $4 million or whatever it is. It's still strange, isn't it? I mean, don't they have to figure out something a little different, or they're going to stub their toe one of these years, maybe?
I think so. Well, they already did. They did to Ohio a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
So like and Campbell, I think pretty clearly didn't want to play this game. He made some comments throughout different post-game pressers and stuff like that throughout the fall. So I think they've 100% got to find a way to get out of these games. The problem is this Arkansas State game was scheduled in 2013. The sport of college football in 2013,
so different.
It's closer to the 1930s than it is the 2020s. So I give Pollard a pass for that one. This Bowling Green game, now this was scheduled in the Campbell era in 2018. I don't know if that has to do with like maybe Campbell's in on it because they recruit Ohio heavily. I know that's like sometimes the big programs will justify going on the road to a place like that if it's a recruiting hotbed. But I still just think even if it's saving money, you got to find different ways to make revenue. That was almost catastrophic if they lost that game.
Yeah.
Not only for Iowa State, for the Big 12 itself. If they would have lost that game that they would have won by 4 scores at Jack Trice Stadium, it could have completely derailed the season, derailed the conference's reputation. So just stop playing the games, in my opinion.
Not to steal from I listen to Iowa Everywhere all the time. Fantastic stuff. And our good friend Chris Hassel kind of brought it up on one of their shows. The fact that like Matt Campbell isn't more involved, is that something that's strange to you as a Cyclone insider, that he's maybe not more involved in the scheduling process than he already is, being there for 10 years and basically the greatest coach that's ever walked the campus over there?
Yeah, it was shocking to me when he said that in his press conference, that he wasn't involved in scheduling. And I think that is something that needs to change. I know Kirk Ferentz is heavily involved with making Iowa's schedule. I don't know when that happened. Was that 10 years in? Was that 5 years in?
6, 7 years, whatever it is. So it's
exactly
maybe not yet, but go ahead.
Yeah, so maybe there's a cycle on I guess when you hit that tenure of when it's time to make your schedule. But Matt Campbell is the most important figure in Iowa State history. I think he deserves, I want to be careful because coaches already have so much power, but he deserves all of the power that an athletic director could give him. And I know that there's other stuff involved, like football funds cross country, football funds volleyball. So it's not as much like TJ Altsberger makes Iowa State's basketball schedule, but whoever Iowa State is playing in the non-conference in basketball doesn't really affect the rest of the department. So maybe that's why you see way more involvement from Pollard. But either way, it's got to be at least like 25% Campbell. Like his word has to be involved in the process.
Mm-hmm. No, I completely agree. Jake Brend from the Cyclone Fanatic joining me right now and off the air with Matt Randazzo. I got to stop for a second because over your shoulder, are your shoes lined up perfectly over your shoulder?
Yeah, they're on like a shoe rack.
Yeah, that's the most impressive thing I've seen all day. Like,
really?
As a guy I got 4 kids. My house is a freaking disaster. And like, look at that. That's well done.
You should see the rest of my room. You should see the room that's not a part of the podcast layout. It's not bad. It's just not great.
Yeah.
It's all right though.
I appreciate the shoes. I'm telling you that right now.
Thank
4
you.
weeks into the season. I guess I want to ask you some maybe big picture questions. Best story of the first 4 weeks. And that's probably hard, but what's the headline of the first 4 weeks when it's come to Cyclone football?
I think it's Rocco Becht. He's elevated. It's what we talked about in the offseason. It's what could take this team that we all thought was pretty good. I mean, I think most reasonable people thought, yeah, it's at minimum, it's probably a 7 or 8 win team. But if Rocco Becht elevates his game, if Rocco Becht takes that jump, it could be another special season. And he has no doubt taken that jump. I think he's been the best quarterback in the Big 12 Conference. I think there's an argument that he's been one of the 3 or 5 best quarterbacks in the entire country. He has been remarkable. And the Iowa State offense itself has had some problems outside of that. There's been a couple games where they didn't run the ball great. They've been dealing with some drops at the wide receiver position, but the steady part of the entire team so far has been Rocco Becht when it matters most. And honestly, just over the course of the game, he's been incredible pretty much nonstop since the first half of that K-State game. And that is easily the headliner for me so far.
Is there a worry coming into the season that has been alleviated in the first 4 games in your mind? Something that you were like concerned about that you feel better about after week 4?
It's kind of cheating because the ones behind the scenes kind of knew this was happening, but I think the biggest concern, or one of the biggest concerns all offseason, was who's going to be the second cornerback opposite of Jontez Williams. Well, a few of us behind the scenes, we found out 2 or 3 weeks before the season that they were going to move Jeremiah Cooper over to cornerback. But to see that actually play out, I think it's got the potential to be one of those Matt Campbell moves that is talked about for a long time. Like moving Joel Lanning from quarterback to linebacker. Moving Cooper from safety to corner has done so much because you can't really attack the corners. And Jontez Williams hasn't really been thrown at all. Cooper has been thrown at a little bit and hasn't given up much. So I think that has just really, really helped Iowa State's young secondary behind them be pretty dang good so far. They've still got room to grow, but that's a move that's been big.
All right, let's flip it. Is there something that you, after 4 weeks, that you are now concerned a little more about than maybe you would have been to start the season? Or something that continues to be a concern maybe?
Yeah, it's still probably the front 7. They just aren't getting pressure on the quarterback. And it might be time to accept that they just might not be the team that gets a ton of pressure on the quarterback. They might have to be the team that is just really, really good in pass coverage, and that's how they play defense. The run defense has been pretty good, but at this point, I don't think it's realistic to expect them to wreak havoc. And maybe once Carson Willick, the linebacker, comes back, it helps a little bit. But so far on the D-line, Dominique Orange has been incredible, but the guys on the edge have to win more battles. And maybe this Tamatoa McDonough, who had the 2 sacks at the end of the Cyhawk game, maybe he continues to elevate. But other than that, I just don't see a way where Iowa State is able to be towards the top of the conference and getting pressure, getting sacks.
Jake Brend joining us right now and Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. Before we talk about Arizona, and we'll get more into them next week, what I don't know if there was a team in college football that needed a bye week more than Iowa State. When it came to the traveling, when it came to the emotions, when it came to a Cyhawk game, all that kind of stuff. Kind of just maybe chat on that a little bit about like this team needed it. And I think the coaching staff knew they needed it. And like, this is simply about recharging, not just physically, but especially mentally as well.
Oh, 100% both. Like, this team started fall camp earlier than normal. So if you're used to starting practice on July 25th, they started July 18th. And that's just a long time to keep going. That's about 8 weeks. On top of that, they also started getting physical probably a little earlier because you had to factor in half of the week traveling to Ireland is going to be traveling. So this team has just been going at it longer than any other football team in the country outside of K-State, and they have desperately needed this bye week. They're dinged up. Gabe Burkle's injured. Like, they've just got a lot of nagging injuries that they definitely need a bye week. And I think just from a mental standpoint, I talked about it earlier, they 100% need it after the emotional highs of winning in Dublin, flying back, the emotional low of that, beating Iowa, the emotional low of going to play at Arkansas State. I think they just need a week to sit in that practice facility, take a deep breath, get healthy, watch some film, and then charge into the Big 12 football season.
When you look at Arizona coming up, what pops out? I think it's a night game again. I think I saw that, another night game.
Yep, 6 o'clock.
What pops out about an Arizona team that beat Kansas State as well? I mean, and Kansas State's struggling right now, but not a layup, but another winnable game for the Cyclones coming up, not this Saturday, but the week after that.
Yeah, so before the season, we set our point spreads our point spread projections on every game. And we determined that the Arizona game is probably the only Big 12 game that Iowa State will play this year that'll be a double-digit spread. And I don't think it will be anymore. They've been better than expected. And they were a disaster last year. They lost Jed Fish, who's now at Washington, as Hawkeye fans know. But they did keep a few key stars on offense. And from the sounds of it, Brent Brennan, their head coach, came in and he didn't want to upset anybody, and he wasn't really hard on his team at all. And that resulted in them being soft, getting pushed around pretty much every single game. He said enough of that. He brought in a bunch of new guys this offseason and apparently laid the foot down, or put his foot down. And that's seeming to show because they're a lot better defensively than they were last year. And they've got all these new offensive linemen that have been good at times. They're also the most penalized group in the country. So they're improved, not a layup. Iowa State's going to have to play well to win the game. But I still don't think I wouldn't say they're on upset alert by any means.
I wanted to talk to you, and we'll get into Arizona X's and O's Y's next week. Jake Brend joining me right now and off the air with Matt Randazzo. In the Quad Cities, we got this really excited Illinois fan base that's a top 10 team and getting ready to play a huge game this week. We got a really excited Iowa State fan base that's a top 12 team. Is it 12 this week?
Yep, 12 in the 8 people.
And excited. And two programs that maybe aren't used to being where they're at right now. I wanted to ask you this. I'm going to have a line of expert Ken Prince on tomorrow. And I want to get your thoughts. If Iowa State played Illinois right now on a neutral field, who would win?
Ooh, that's a good one. I mean, the spread would probably be a pick'em if I had to guess. I think that'd be a one-score game, and in one-score games, I'm just picking Rocco. Like that's kind of how I've gotten down to making my projections. Like if Iowa State if we go way down the line and like, oh, they're playing Ohio State in the playoff, like I think the talent deficit is too big. I'm taking Ohio State, but any of these other teams that are like probably within a field goal, either way, I'm just taking Rocco Becht with the game on the line. And I could be wrong, but that'd be my prediction.
It's a good hypothetical, isn't it? I'd look at it too, where Rocco's really good. Luke Altmaier is fantastic too.
Yeah,
so, like,
Altmaier's
really
one of the best.
Yeah, two really good quarterbacks. I just think I'm gonna ask Ked the same question tomorrow, and I'm expecting him to say Illinois, and I expected you to say Iowa State. But I think it's really cool here in the Quad Cities because usually we're so Iowa dominant right now, and it's two of the teams that aren't football powerhouses of late. Iowa State better of late, Illinois better of late, but traditionally having great seasons.
I'm interested to see how Illinois plays on Saturday because to me, I feel like they're in a similar spot to where Iowa State was like 6 or 7 years ago, where Bielema had built this program up to be able to compete with top teams and towards the top of the Big 10/Big 12. But it's hard to like sustain that, and it's hard to know. It's hard to handle success, and that's why Iowa State cratered for a couple of years there and had to rebuild back up. So I'm interested to see how they handle those big games and if they're able to sustain it. And obviously, Bielema's no young guy, so he's done it before.
Yeah, it's weird because it's Indiana and Illinois. Like, I feel like we're in February, and we should be talking about, like, the State Farm Center is going to be rocking, and the Orange Crush is going to –
no kidding.
It's different, but it's cool. Okay, before I let you go, what does your Saturday entail? Like, you don't have to cover a football game. Please tell me you're like sitting on a couch with a ton of food watching college football from start to finish.
If my step count goes over 200 steps, I've failed. I'm going to buy probably a bunch of brats, some beer, some bourbon, and I'm going to watch, starting with Utah, Texas Tech at 11 a.m. all the way until Michigan State plays USC at like 3 in the morning, I think is what time that game is. Like, that is all that I'm doing on Saturday, and I can't wait. I've been looking forward to it ever since I looked at the slate a couple weeks ago. Like, that is just going to be an unbelievable day. I can't wait.
No, it's a much lesser extent than you, but like my Saturday, I have some kids, like a football game or two for kids and a homecoming for my oldest, and nothing crazy. And like, I don't have Iowa football. So it's like, I'm going to watch a lot more football. And then Sunday, I'm a Lions fan, and I don't have to worry about the Lions because they play Monday night. So I'm doing the same thing on Sunday. So I think we deserve it every once in a while. Jake, I've always appreciated it. We'll catch up again next week. We'll talk Arizona and a bunch more. Enjoy the bye week. Have a beer, a bourbon, and a brat for me. All 3 Bs. Have all 3 of them for me on Saturday. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dazzo.
All right. That is Jake Brend from the Cyclone Fanatic joining us off there with Matt Randazzo. A bye week for the Cyclones, but always still plenty to talk about when it comes to Iowa State athletics and the football program. And Ked's going to be on tomorrow. I want to ask him that same question because I think it's fascinating. There's Iowa State that's loving life right now, top 12 team, and then Illinois, top 10 team, top 9 team in the country. And like, if they played each other, who would win and why? And so I thought Jake had a good explanation. I don't know who would win. I don't know. I think I would go Illinois. I do. But we'll talk about it with Ked tomorrow as well. So we got a lot more to get to on today's show coming up after the break. Our good friend Kyle Huesmann from the Hawkeye Report will check in with us because he just spent about a half hour with Coach Jensen up in Iowa City. We'll talk what he learned about the Iowa women's the Iowa women's basketball program from last year and also moving into this year as well. We got all that to get to, plus Ty Taylor, plus Marc Nesseler. We are loaded on a Wednesday here on Off the Air. All right, be honest. Are you craving Hungry Hobo again? You know, that fresh sliced meat piled high on those amazing sandwiches, hot off the grill chicken and steak with all those delicious toppings, the biggest and best selection of baked potatoes, or simply some waffle fries dipped in cheese. Well, now that Quad City favorite is even easier to get. Download the Hungry Hobo app today. Order ahead, skip the line, and earn rewards all at the same time. There's Double Points Monday and exclusive specials as well. With 12 locations in the Quad City area, it's Hungry Hobo. Now even easier to find, but still hard to resist.
Rafferty Funeral Home, dedicated to serving families in the Quad Cities since 2007.
Hi, welcome. Here, come on in.
An experienced staff plans each service to reflect the unique life and legacy of your loved one. Rafferty Funeral Home is proud to serve our community with dignity, respect, and compassion, helping you to celebrate your traditions and lasting memories no matter your faith, culture, or budget. Rafferty Funeral Home in Moline. Call today to discuss prearrangements.
When it comes to quality, convenient pizza, Godfather's Pizza in Silvis has you covered. Featuring a beautiful dine-in area, delivery, and a carry-out window. Godfather's Pizza is that pizza you grew up with, not a convenience store. You see, at Godfather's Pizza, the dough is made fresh daily. That mozzarella cheese is shredded fresh and never frozen. And those toppings are abundantly piled high each and every time. Locally owned and operated since 2010, Godfather's is a huge supporter of local athletes right here in the Quad Cities. So come on by and check them out at 1211 Avenue of the Cities in Silvis. Order online at godfathers.com and reunite with that same delicious pizza you grew up with. Welcome back to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a Wednesday in the Quad Cities. Of course, it's the middle of September. Football is on everyone's mind, but before you know it, basketball season will be here, and it'll be another interesting, I think, successful season in Iowa City when it comes to the women's basketball program. And there's not anyone that I know that's more locked into Iowa women's basketball than our good friend Kyle Huesmann from the Hawkeye Report. I miss the basketball season, man, and baseball to an extent, because we don't do this as much as we used to. Thanks for doing it, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me back on. I mean, there's always something to talk about with women's basketball or baseball, but yeah, I agree. It's nice when we can break down games and preview games and things like that. That's much more fun. And I mean, honestly, we'll be there before we know what we're under 2 months now before the beginning of the women's basketball season. It'll be just like that, and we'll be talking about preseason stuff, and then we'll be into the season.
Yeah, it's crazy how quick it'll come. Big reason I wanted to have you on is obviously Jan Jensen just got done with year number 1 at the helm at the University of Iowa. And you just sat down with Coach recently and had a great conversation, kind of talking about her first year and maybe the future and all those kind of things. I guess when you get done with the conversation with her, what was – and it's hard because I talked for 25, 30 minutes. What was the headline? What was the thing that popped out that you walked away from that conversation with when it came to Iowa women's basketball and Jan Jensen?
Yeah, I mean, first off, Jan's great. So, I mean, to sit down and talk with her for 25, 30 minutes, you just hear, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say you learn a ton because, I mean, like you said, I cover this program inside and out. So it's a lot of stuff that I felt like I kind of knew. But yeah, I mean, there were a couple of things that were really interesting. I mean, you just kind of listening to her talk, I realized like how much she really cares about this job. She talked about, one of the things that happened like early in the season and maybe even like halfway through the season, one of the things that she kind of realized is the weight of being the head coach at a place like Iowa. Obviously she's a native Iowan and she's been at Iowa for what is like her 25th year at Iowa, but it's her first as head coach. And it's different when you're the head coach because everything comes back to you. I mean, as an assistant coach, when a game ends and when they lose, she goes back in the locker room and, they start watching film, preparing for, next practice, whatever. All of a sudden, when you're the head coach, you're going into the post-game press conference and you've got to answer the questions about why you lost. And, on social media, instead of saying like, oh, Lisa Bluter should have done this, it's Jan Jensen should have done this. And she said that, she mentioned about the weight of being the head coach. She wants to do so well, not for herself necessarily, but for the fans that have sold out the arena, 2 years in a row, and really the fans that have been around for years and years. I mean, Iowa's always had a great following. She wants to do it for the players that, stuck around through the change, and the players from the portal that have wanted to come into Jan in her early time here at Iowa, the recruits that have committed and stayed with Jan. So she just wants to do so well for all of them. And that there's just the weight of it where you realize that it all comes down to, I mean, obviously you have your players, you're coaching them to do well, and they have a certain role in it, and the assistant coaches have a certain role. But ultimately it comes down to Jan, and she's the head coach now. So she just kind of talked about the weight that she feels as being a head coach, maybe a little bit different than being an assistant. And the other thing that I kind of learned is, and I kind of thought about this a little bit last year, is that there is no substitute for coaching and being the head coach in actual games, right? I mean, she joked, and I was going to make the same joke to her that, no one could ever get as close to being a head coach as she did without actually being a head coach. And she was with Lisa for 30 years and was the associate head coach for a number of those years. But there is no substitute for being the head coach and being the one making those in-game decisions, making those game plans, and being kind of the final decision maker. So she had to have like her own learning experiences going through games where maybe a game ends and you look back through the film, or you think back about how the game played out, and maybe I should have done something differently, whatever. There's kind of that learning curve. She had all these years of experience. She learned lessons from Lisa Bluter. She took little notes from Lisa Bluter. But until you're out there coaching in that close game in the fourth quarter with 2 minutes left, and you got to make the decision of, do I sub here? What play call do I make? There's no way to properly prepare for that until you've experienced it a few times. So I think that's one of those things that she has that experience now. Obviously, she's only coached 35 games, 34 regular season games in an exhibition. So she doesn't have a ton of experience yet, but she has a season of going through those tough moments. She's gone through a losing streak now. And when those situations show up this season, those close games, those, maybe you lose a couple of games in a row, she finally has a year of experience now. So that was kind of the one thing that I learned, is that she had to kind of work through it on her own there, because even though she had all that coaching experience, she didn't have head coaching experience. So, there are a lot of first time things for her last year. And now that she's going into year 2, she feels like, she does have some things to draw from now.
No, absolutely. Kyle Huesmann joining me now. On Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. You look at a conversation with Coach. Obviously, you want to reflect, and then you want to look ahead. And how did you balance that when it came to talking about last year and then moving forward to this year? Because obviously that's what everybody's interested in. But it's so fascinating to hear about being her first year as head coach and all of those kind of things. How did you want to balance it when you did?
Yeah, I mean, I was really interested just to I spent a decent amount of it, most of it, kind of looking back at last year, kind of maybe not necessarily the season itself. We talked about the losing streak and how they managed to get through that. And we talked about, the USC win and things like that. But I wanted to kind of focus more on, what did she learn as a head coach, maybe about herself. What did she learn about herself during some of those moments? What were some things that she took away from the season, things like that. Not really necessarily about the season itself, but more, it was really focused on her as a head coach, because I was really interested to hear, someone, like I said, she'd been an assistant coach for 30 plus years. What was it like being a head coach for the first time? But yeah, then towards the end, we started to talk about, this coming season and what she feels like she wants to do better as a head coach this year. There was something that she mentioned last year, I believe it was at the NCAA tournament down in Norman. She mentioned that she kind of kept a notebook throughout the season where she just jotted down notes and things throughout the season on, maybe things that she didn't get to in a practice that she wanted to go back to later in the year. Maybe in a game, she didn't feel like she did this well, so she just jot down some notes. That was kind of the interesting to hear about. It was her idea to start this notebook just to have notes, because she said, especially as a first year head coach, everything comes at you so quickly. There's so much that you're responsible for. She mentioned, as an assistant coach, you have, sometimes it changes a little bit, but generally you have a very set role as what you're doing as an assistant coach. And then as a head coach, you're in control of everything. I mean, you kind of, look at every part of the program, whereas an assistant coach maybe has a little bit smaller role, smaller focused role. So she said she wanted to keep those notes just of, things that maybe she wanted to go back to at a different time. If they had an off, a stretch, a little bit longer stretch in between games, something she wanted to go back to in practice, or notes from games, things like that. She said she wants to change that up, though, a little bit this year. She said last year was just kind of a running list of stuff. You'd look at the notebook page and there'd be stuff about practice. There'd be stuff about, maybe not even game related, something that happened, off the court in terms of, in the office or something like that. And then there'd be like notes about a game, just all mixed together. So she said she wants to make that a little bit more organized this year. But she mentioned that this year's team is a little bit different from last year. You had a few more veterans last year. You had Lucy Olson, who'd obviously, new to Iowa, but was very veteran at the collegiate level. She said she wants to be a little bit more patient with the team this year, because they do have 9 underclassmen, and several freshmen. And not only do a couple of those underclassmen, they're transfers as well. So they're basically freshmen in terms of their experience at Iowa. So she said she has to be a little bit more patient this year. Whereas maybe last year with a few more veterans, you don't have to be as patient because most of the team knows the system and things like that. But there's a lot of players on this team that have only had a year in the system, and a lot of them that are in their first year in the system. And I asked her about goals for this season, because you go back a couple of years ago to when they made that first national title game, and then Caitlin's back, and then Gabby Marshall's back, and Kate Martin's back. A number of players were back on that team. And it would be very easy to go into that offseason and say, okay, our goal is to go make the national title again or make the Final Four again, because you knew that was possible. This year's team is different. I mean, obviously they went to the second round last year. You don't come into this season and go, let's make it back to the second round. There's going to be different goals, and it's not going to be let's get to the Final Four, because is that realistic this year? I mean, sure, it's possible if everything breaks the right way, but you're not going to make that as a goal going into this season. So I kind of asked her about how do you go about making a goal for this season when there's a lot of new players, and maybe it is a little up in the air of what is realistic for the team this year. And she said she's not quite sure yet. It's one of those where, with a lot of underclassmen, you don't necessarily always want to have that end of the season goal. Maybe you say break up the season into 4 parts and say, where do we want to be at the end of the non-conference season? Where do we want to be at the new year? Things like that. They don't start real practice until Monday. So she said that's something that she'll get the feedback from the team. What do they think are realistic goals for this season? And they'll kind of go from there. But I think she's excited. I think she's really excited to kind of get into the more normal part of being a head coach. Obviously last year there was a lot of talk about taking over for Lisa Bluter, who had been around for 25 years, and what that change was going to be like. And then obviously Caitlin was gone, Gabby was gone, Kate was gone. There was all this talk about how are they going to replace all that? What's Lucy Olson going to be like as a transfer? And she said she feels like it'll be a little bit more normal this year because you're getting further away from those national titles, further away from the Lisa Bluter, the Caitlin era. And there's not going to be questions. Hopefully there aren't questions from the media this year about how do you anything with Caitlin or with Lisa Bluter, because you've had a season now. So now it's just Jan Jensen. This is your team this year. Questions about that. So hopefully she kind of mentioned just hopefully getting into more of a normal flow of things. But yeah, I mean she's really excited to get to practice. And as she mentioned, with so many new players, this is going to be a critical time for them this year.
Did she mention, and I don't want to, not like you said, hey, this player, that player, maybe you did, but did you get a vibe or a feel of a player or two that she's bullish on or excited for as we go into next season?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting question. We didn't really discuss that, I guess, during the week. We talked a little bit after the fact. And I think with so many young players on this team, obviously you have the summer, which is kind of inputting her system to, teaching the younger players the system, obviously sophomores, things like that. They're still trying to get a firm grasp on the system and how the coaches want it to be run. But it's so interesting with such a young team with 9 underclassmen. It's a little bit of one of those, you don't necessarily know who's going to take a jump. Going into the fall, obviously now going into fall practice, they'll really ramp up now. Like I said, the summer is more, drill work and things like that, putting your system in. And then when you get in the fall, there's a lot more scrimmaging and things like that. And that's when you're going to learn about your team. What did this sophomore do when the lights turned on of the practicing against the gray squad and really going at it in a real scrimmage game like setting? And, how do the freshmen react? How do the transfers react when they're in those situations? So I think she's really excited about a lot of players. She really feels good about Layla Hayes as a freshman and what she can bring to the table. I think, as everybody is excited about Ava Hayden and what she's going to be able to do in her second season. So I think it's one of those where she has those players that she feels like could be good and could take big jumps. But I think even she's still kind of in that area of she wants to see the team, go into those tough practices, those scrimmages against the gray squad where things are getting physical in those game-like situations and see how people respond. And she kind of mentioned it. She's going to know a lot more in a month or so when they've been in practice and they've gone through those situations. But I think she's really excited for the potential of this team. And she did say, maybe early in the year, it takes a few minutes to get, maybe a few games, I should say, a few games to get going because it is a little bit younger team. But I think I agree with the thought that this team has a lot of potential. They're a young team that there are several players on this team that could take really big jumps. So I think there's just a lot of excitement about what this team could be. But she mentioned that it's probably going to be a month and a half going through those practices to really feel like she has a grasp on what they have.
Kyle Huesmann from the Hawkeye Report joining me on Off There with Matt Randazzo. You mentioned sitting down with Coach and what it's like, and if anybody's ever been around her, she's just has so much energy. She exudes energy. Can you kind of talk to us about that a little bit? Because there's not more of an energetic, I don't want to say salesman because that's a negative maybe term, but like she is so bought in and connected with what she's doing. Just what is a conversation? You're getting to sit down with Coach and she gets to talk to you about her baby for a half hour or whatever it is. It's got to be a fun situation for you as well. What is that dynamic like?
Yeah, I mean, it was really nice to I mean, she didn't have to do that in person in her office at Carver. That could have been a phone call, a Zoom call, something like that. But, worked in her schedule for me to stop by over at Carver and do that. So that was really cool. And anyone that is listening to Jan talk, I mean, she really just loves to talk to people. And that's really the best part about her is the fact that you can ask her any type of question. She's going to, I talked about this with like someone like Caitlin. the amount of questions that she had to answer over the course of her career, and everyone was a very thoughtful answer. Jan's the exact same way. Any question that you ask about the team, any player, any part of her coaching, whatever, she gives you a really thoughtful answer. So I'm putting together. I mentioned to you earlier. I'm putting together this article about my talk with her, and I have just way too much to use. Like, I have to figure out what to cut out and what I want to use. But that's great, right? I mean, she was able to sit down with me for 25 minutes and give me way more than I needed. So a lot of it comes down to, just really nice to listen to her talk about the program. And I kind of learned, a little bit more about her from that experience. But it's really nice to sit down with someone like that and have the opportunity to do that. But yeah, anyone that knows Jan knows that she likes to talk, and she's always super energetic. And I really think that side of her helped. Last year, you go back to that losing streak that they had, the 5-game losing streak. She said she was really happy with the fact that she stayed steady through that all and didn't let the 5-game losing streak affect her. As she said, early, you have that little bit of self-doubt, am I doing the right things like that. But then, once you get back on, just kind of stay steady. You look at the way they were losing those games and how close those games were. She felt good about the fact that she stayed steady throughout and kept the positive energy up of, guys, this is going to turn. We just have to tweak a little thing here or there. So I think it's one of those where that positive side that she has, it was really helpful in that moment. But yeah, as I said, it was great to talk to her, and she's one of the best out there in terms of, that positive energy and just wanting to talk to anybody.
Few more for Kyle Huesmann before I let you go. You mentioned talking to her about last year, and a lot of it was how she grew as a coach and doing different things. Was there any moments on the court last year that she talked about when it came to obviously the development of the team? And you mentioned an Ava Hayden or someone like that. Like, what did she come away off the court with that she was excited about as we move on to this season?
Yeah, I think, when you look at like kind of the moments of last season that we looked back on, we talked about, obviously, like I said, the losing streak and how that kind of grew the team and how that grew her. She mentioned that, any losing streak that she's ever been a part of, whether it's, coaching or playing days, that type of adversity has always helped, looking back on it. And she said that those are the moments that really help you grow. If you're a player, it helps you grow. If you're a coach, it helps you grow. So that was kind of the big point of last season, was that losing streak and finding a way to get through that. And the returning players that went through that, I think that'll be helpful this season when adversity hits. But we also talked about the USC game and just how monumental that was, for, I don't want to say for the program, but for this new group. You want to call it a new era, whatever you want to call it. She mentioned it, it was great to have, Caitlin was back, Kate, Gabby, and Monica was back. Lisa Bluter was there. David Letterman was there for whatever reason he was there for. But she said it was like really cool to have, Carver's always been great. And obviously Carver was sold out all of last season, but, to have some of those big players back, to have that like celebrity feel like it was when Caitlin was there, and then have that win on that stage. And that wasn't like a bad team that came in. That was one of the best teams in the country in USC that was there. And, that was before Juju Watkins got injured. So she was playing, and to have that moment and win that game was huge. And she mentioned, the court storming, if you want to call that. There were, a couple hundred students that came out on the floor after the game. And she said that really made her, look back on how much this program has, moved the needle for women's basketball. That the students are still excited about this program, because she said, some of those students that were out there, maybe they were freshmen, maybe they were seniors. But yeah, they were probably there for the Caitlin jersey retirement. But the students that came down and stormed the court, they were happy for the team that won that game. Yeah, the Caitlin stuff, whatever. But the game itself, they were excited that Jan's team, that team that doesn't have Caitlin Clark, that doesn't have Lisa Bluter, that didn't have, those other players that are sitting courtside, they were excited for that team. And she said that's a really unique experience because in women's basketball, there just isn't that same type of court storming. So she was really excited that the students got to share that moment, and that they were happy enough about the win to do something like that. But yeah, I think, both the players and the returning players and the whole coaching staff learned a lot last year. And I think basically every moment that they went through last year will be very helpful going into this season.
Kyle, before I let you go, last time we talked about recruiting and a lot of it. I don't want to get all into it, but the big name was McKenna Velitsko, and she's still out there, 5-star. Iowa, I think both you and Tom had in Iowa as your guys' picks, and hopefully that works out. Any update on where she's at with things, or is it just wait and see kind of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, we've really kind of gotten to that wait and see spot. I mean, obviously, you look back a month or two ago, there was still official visits to be taken. There was stuff like that. And then obviously there was kind of that projected timeline of what we felt like was going to happen, and really what she and her family kind of had laid out for a projected timeline. But we're kind of at the point now where everything's on the table with her top 4. Everyone's kind of given their pitch. She's gone on her official visits, everything like that. And now it's kind of down to making a final decision. I think all the information is there for, and you know, the timeline has dragged out just a little bit. And you know, I think there's some people that are growing, I wouldn't say frustrated, but a little anxious with how this is kind of drawn out a little bit. But you know, the early signing period isn't until early November, so she is in no hurry to make a decision if it you know needs to drag out a little longer. And the thing I will say is people need to kind of realize that she wants to make a decision. She's not someone that is looking to transfer. She has said she wants to go to a program and stay there for 4 years, and she wants to have a chance to win a national title. And you look at the teams that are, you know, in her top 4: Iowa, USC, Ohio State, South Carolina. Those are very good basketball programs, and she is one of the best recruits in the country. So that decision is not a light decision. You know, if she wants to win a national title, she wants to go to the WNBA, she wants to pick the program that she feels like is going to set her best up for that success. So it's one of those where you can't knock her for taking an extra week or an extra 2 weeks to make that decision. If, you know, she's putting down those pros and cons lists and, you know, she just can't make a decision. You can't knock her for taking a little bit extra time to make sure that she comes to the decision that she's happy with, that her family's happy with. But yeah, I feel like we're right down to that spot where it's up to them to kind of make that final decision. There's not much more to share in terms of information. It's just, you know, what is that decision going to be? I'm still of the belief that it's going to be sooner rather than later. But like I said, you know, if she feels like she needs to take an extra week and a half to maybe talk to those coaches again, to reaffirm some things, you can't knock her for that, because this is a giant decision she's still a very young person. Yeah. So this is a very heavy decision for her to make, very heavy decision for her family to make. So the longer it draws out, I mean, it is a little frustrating for fans, maybe when they've been told that a certain timeline is going to be what it is. But yeah, I mean, this is, you know, a giant decision for her, and it's going to be, you know, where does she spend the next 4 years of her basketball career, and you know, somewhere where she wants to be able to develop into a WNBA player. So you know, you just have to give her that time, and there's going to be a decision at some point. She has to commit eventually, right? So it's just one of those where fans have to be patient and kind of just see what happens.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I have enough trouble figuring out what I want to have for dinner, more or less what I'm going to spend the next 4 years of my life. Kyle, tell people how to check out the article when it's up and all those kind of things, and the Hawkeye report and all that kind of stuff. Pump what you got coming, because it's going to be exciting. Oh yeah, I mean, HawkeyeReport.com. Certainly, we're in football season right now, so Tom's got a whole bunch up for football. I'm doing a little bit of football stuff, obviously, with, you know, my weekly, you know, breakdown of Marc and his passing and stuff like that, and you know, big plays in the game. I do the weekly game preview. I've got the Rutgers one up for this week. Then certainly, you know, like I said, we're going to be getting into basketball soon enough, and I don't know when the article with Jan is going to be up, but like I said, I've got a lot to kind of sift through and decide how I want to write it. So it could be a little bit yet. I'll be working on it today. But obviously, you know, fall baseball's starting soon. Thursday I'll be out at Dwayne Banks for their scout day. There'll be a several inning scrimmage, 5-6 inning scrimmage that I'll be out there to watch, and you know, field hockey's going on, soccer's going on. So there's plenty going on. There's always something new up on the site, but yeah, an exciting time of year, because like I said, football season is probably my favorite time of year. So there's plenty to look at there if that's your favorite sport. But outside of football, there's still plenty to read, plenty to talk about. And as I said, soon enough, I mean, it'll feel like 5 minutes from now we'll be talking about the first game of the women's basketball season, and certainly the men's basketball season as well, with the excitement around that program too. So everything moves really quickly, so there'll be plenty to talk about going forward. Absolutely. Best way to know when the article comes out, at Huesmann Kyle. Go to Twitter and you can check it out, everything there as well. Kyle, I appreciate you. I always enjoy you way more than Tom. We'll catch up again real soon. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
All right, that is Kyle Huesmann from the Hawkeye Report talking a little women's basketball because he sat down with Coach Jensen for about 25, 30 minutes recently. So he'll have that article coming, but great insight on her first year and then obviously what's going to be an exciting second year for her at the University of Iowa. We got more to get to. Coming up after the break, we will check in on some high school football. Ty Taylor from WRMJ will join us to talk track football and much more. You're watching Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a Wednesday. Slow down. Wednesday in the Quad Cities.
Give me the keys. Learning to drive can be stressful for both the student and, yes, the parent as well. Relax. There's an easy way to avoid the stress. Skiles Driving School in East Moline has been helping new drivers hit the road with confidence for over 20 years. Whether you're a teen earning your first license or an adult looking for behind-the-wheel training, we've got you covered. Their certified instructors are patient, experienced, and use modern vehicles equipped for safety and comfort. From classroom instruction to real-world driving, we make learning safe, affordable, and even fun. Call 309-278-0098 or visit skylesdriving.com. Skiles Driving School. Get in, buckle up, drive your future forward.
Are you looking to take your next party, tailgate, or golf outing to the next level? You need Mobile Party Experience. MPX features 3 top-of-the-line party trailers equipped with all the amenities you need to party like a rock star. Smart TVs, Yeti coolers, JBL sound systems, grills, bathrooms, and much more. Mobile Party Experience is an experience like no other. Check out my-mpx.com or call 563-514-1470 and book your Mobile Party Experience today. Welcome back to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a Wednesday in the Quad Cities. Of course, high school football and week 4 of the high school football season comes your way this Friday night. It's crazy that we're already ready for week 4 of the season. Time flies when you're having fun. And one thing that's been fun these last several Wednesdays is it a Wednesday tradition, Ty? Is this like a Wednesday thing? We talk with the one and only WRMJ's Ty Taylor. It's becoming a pattern, a trend. I like it.
It's why I spring out of bed every Wednesday morning, because I know I get to talk with Matt Randazzo. And we've been talking about getting me to the Randazzo estate, and we thought this would be the week. Ended up not working out, but I am glad that what I was able to do was help get the Randazzo estate cleaned up a little bit, it sounds like, because you were expecting guests and at the last minute not able to come. So got some housework done. I'm sure the wife is very happy with you, right?
Ty, you made me vacuum. I freaking vacuumed for you. And now I'm just here by myself. I could have stuff. There was like papers laying around the corner, all that kind of stuff. It needed to be done. So, and you know what? It's been a while since I've had somebody in the studio. I think next week we're gonna start rocking and rolling a little more. It's hard to convince people to come out to the beautiful Taylor Ridge / South Milan area. We're still South Milan. We're not quite to Taylor Ridge, but it's hard to convince. But next week or a week eventually, you're gonna be. I want a Polar Pop. I want a Diet Mountain Dew is my main thing. So as long as you bring that, we'll be good to go. It is week 4 of the high school football season. It's weird to even think because honestly, it seems like yesterday we were previewing things. It goes fast and games get important quick. Not that they're all not important, but there's some big games and some important games. The importance of games go up a notch around this time of year, don't they?
They do, because it feels like at this point of the season, weeks 4, 5, 6, you really start to kind of see the separation of teams who maybe are conference championship contenders to the teams who aren't. And then there's also that grouping of teams that you feel like are probably going to be fighting it out, kind of dogging it out to try to get to that 5-win mark to get to the postseason. So yeah, obviously as each week passes, the margin for error, it feels like it gets slimmer and slimmer. And just with how, short of a time frame you get to play, just 9 games, you got to make all of them count. And as like we talked about, each week, goes by, it's one less opportunity you have to try to, add another win to get to that all-important 5th win. So, yeah, I think every week is exciting, but certainly as the year progresses, it gets more and more urgent, I think is the word to use. So, yeah, I mean, week 4, we're kind of into the full swing of conference play, both in the TRAC and really around the state. Really now conference is kind of getting into full swing. And that's always exciting, too, I think, is kind of watching the conference races develop.
Yeah, and we knew in the TRAC that we would have interesting games all year long. It's what we've already had. It's what we have this week. And a third of the way through the season, am I right? I'm doing math in my head. 3 unbeaten teams still. Rock Ridge at 3-0, Newman at 3-0, Monmouth Roseville at 3-0. I guess a third of the way through the season, who's been the most impressive team in this conference for you?
That's a hard question because I think it's got to be one of the 3-0 teams. To me, it's probably Rock Ridge just because to me, there were a few question marks on the defensive end and up front just because of the level of players they, graduated from last year. They had 2 All-Staters, Landon Bull and Jude Finch, graduate. So there were some pieces who hadn't played a whole lot of, varsity snaps that needed to step up. And I really think, along the offensive line, they've been great so far this year. And them going on the road and beating Princeton, I think, is the most impressive win in the conference so far, just with the way they did it. I know Newman beat them as well, but Rockridge doing it on the road and coming from behind the way they did. And then beating Riverdale, who is off to such a great 2-0 start too. We knew Rockridge's skill position guys were really good and elite, not just locally, but statewide, in my opinion. But up front, they've been great. Defensively, they're always really good, but they've been able to really, withstand those losses to graduation they suffered from last year. So I've been super impressed with them. And I know we're talking about week 4, but week 5 next week is going to be great when Rockridge and Newman get to play, and we'll probably talk about that more next week. But like I said, I've been impressed with Rockridge, or I should say Newman and Monmouth Roseville too, all off to starts with impressive wins for all those teams, I think.
Yeah, I don't want to. This isn't a negative question. I don't want to say who's been the most disappointing, so I'm not doing that. But who's been the biggest surprise? Has there been a positive surprise, or I know we had expectations for a lot of these teams. Is there a team that's surprised a little bit when it comes? Is it Monmouth Roseville's 3-0 start and just the way they've done it, or like what is the surprise maybe when it comes to this conference?
Well, I don't know if surprise is the right word, but I think I've been a lot more impressed with Orion than maybe I thought going in. I thought they'd definitely take a step forward, and we know offensively they were going to be really good with Cale Filler and Owen Voorhees, who I know you covered that they both scored 6 touchdowns in the win for Orion over Mercer County this past Friday. But, defensively, it feels like they have taken a huge step forward, which they needed to, and they've been able to run the ball pretty well so far this season as well, which is a definite improvement from a year ago. They limited Mercer County to just 20 points. They limited Hall to just 19, or I believe. So, or 21, I think was what they gave up to Hall. So 3 touchdowns each. But last year when they played Mercer County, they gave up over 500 yards rushing and over 371 to one player. This year they limit them to just 20 points and really defensively did a good job. They've done a great job too, I think, forcing turnovers. They've been really opportunistic in giving that offense short fields and being able to get off the field on defense too and doing so. So I think maybe the biggest surprise, again, maybe not surprise, but I think Orion has looked a lot better than at least I expected coming into the season, off to a 2-1 start. Now they have a really big test with Newman for homecoming this week at home, but off to 2-1 start. I think Orion is a team to me right now that looks like I think they got a solid chance to get back into the playoffs this year.
No, absolutely correct. Ty Taylor from WRMJ joining me right now and off the air with Matt Randazzo. Well, let's stay with that game and stay in Orion. You're right. We chatted with Cale Filler and Owen Voorhees earlier this week, and what a Friday that you called the game, I believe. So you know all about it, and you saw it. So much offense, so much firepower, and then here comes Newman that just has been workmanlike. And we haven't even really talked a lot about them, but they beaten Princeton, they beat EP. I mean, they've done some really good things already this season. and here comes Big Bad Newman into Orion. What's your thoughts heading into that game? And I know Orion feels they can compete and stay close and steal one and all those kind of things. What has to happen for Orion to pull an upset maybe on Friday night?
Well, they've got to play their best defensive game of the season for sure. And I know week 2 when they played Monmouth Roseville, they struggled against the run. I think they allowed the Titans to rush for over 400 yards against them. And Monmouth Roseville's fullback had 242 yards rushing and 4 touchdowns, I think. So Newman, while they don't run traditionally as much out of that, run heavy, like classic wishbone look that, Newman was known for, they still go to it, and they have a really strong stable of running backs. And just with Orion's lack of size up front, I think that's going to be their biggest challenge. I think Orion will be able to score for sure. I think they'll be able to score on anybody all season, but can they get enough stops to stay in the game? That's the biggest question mark. So to me, at least, the whole focus for Orion this week is defensively. Got to be able to force, probably a couple of turnovers, got to force Newman to punt a couple of times too. If they're going to be able to do that or not is definitely up in the air. But I think, like I said, offensively, for the most part this year, they should be able to move the ball with just the talent they have on that side of the ball. But defensively, though, they've put 2 performances together on the field, good performances, I should say, on the field so far this season. Newman is a whole different, type of challenge, for example, than what Mercer County was this past week.
Rock Ridge goes to Erie Prophetstown, and EP lost for the first time this past week to Newman, but it's a good football team. And we've talked about Rock Ridge and their gauntlet that everybody goes through in this conference, but it was, the rivalry game, and then they had Princeton, and then Riverdale's coming to town. They're 2-0. And now you talked about 2 weeks from now, Newman and that game. And here's this trip to Erie Prophetstown in between. I don't want to put any doubt in like Rock Ridge. It was funny. We had Sam Graves on View from the West, Instant Reacts, and he said he kind of heard the doubters of the Riverdale game, and they kind of took offense to that. I'm not saying that Rock Ridge can't get the job done and go on the road, but it's an interesting situation to be in when you have that big game looming next week. They have to have their focus on this week, don't they?
Yeah, and that's the thing that is really the only thing that worries me for Rock Ridge this week is everything about this screams like trap game. You know what I mean? Because you're off to a great start. You had the really big emotional win over Princeton, beat Riverdale on homecoming last week in a game between 2 undefeated teams. Next week, you have a game with Newman coming up, which will likely be 2 teams, ranked in the top 5, top 3 of their respective classes in the state, likely undefeated. If both are able to get through games, they're favored. And this week, all you got to get through to get there is a long road trip to Erie and a game that doesn't nearly have as much hype as what next week does, or really what last week or the week before had with Princeton and Riverdale respectively. So that's, I think, their one challenge is remaining focused. I know, Rock Ridge is extremely well coached with Coach Graves and, Jeff Henry, one of their assistants, and really just down the line, they have a great staff, I think. So I'm not, necessarily worried about them overlooking Erie Prophetstown. That's not something that, Rock Ridge does as a program. But I just think their one challenge is to, remain focused because of what is ahead next week. You got to focus on this Friday first before you can turn your focus to what should be a really fun, matchup next Friday with Newman.
Yeah, it's going to be a ton of fun then. But one step. Where's that game? Is that game in Edgington?
Yes, Rock Ridge is hosting that next week.
Oh, it looks like I might be taking the show on the road next Friday. Here I come, Rockets. Kewanee and Princeton. It's a great long-standing rivalry, one of the best rivalries in the state, all that kind of stuff. Princeton just wants to play, I'm assuming, after not being able to play last week. I know Kewanee's down. I don't want to spend a ton of time on it, but isn't Princeton just, eager to get back on the field after not being able to play last week?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I know they were disappointed, obviously, with the 0-2 start, 2 tight losses to really good teams like we just talked about with Newman and Rock Ridge. They had a chance to kind of get right, last week against Sherrard. Sherrard ended up having to forfeit due to, some sickness and injury in their program. Didn't forfeit till Thursday night around 5:30. So you go basically the entire week. For Princeton, I assume they got done with their Thursday practice, getting ready to play, and then all of a sudden they get the call that, hey, we're not able to play on Friday. So I know that's got to be disappointing. And just, not just because it's a game you probably were going to win, but it's one less game that those like senior kids get to play. Like we've talked about, you only get 9 in the regular season. So they are 1-2, haven't won a game on the field yet, have a chance against an 0-3 Kewanee team to, kind of take a step forward. So I assume they're going to come out, play really hard, play really fast, and probably, put that game away pretty quickly with just how the season has gone. I'm sure they're really kind of itching to get out there and play for sure on Friday to, finally kind of after 2 weeks of, missing a game this past Friday to get back out there for the first time in 14 days.
I got to ask you about Sherrard and the everything I heard is the plan is they're going to play. They're on the road at Hall, and you look at their next couple games. It's at Hall and then Mendota, and I think those are probably the two best chances for them to win games and do like the most competitive games they have on the schedule. Everything we hear they're playing, let's hope they're playing, and we don't say that. I really don't say that like mockingly or like, faulting them by any stretch. It's a tough situation. What do you know about Sherrard and hopefully they can get back out there and play football again this week?
Over there, it is, the plan is to make the trip to Spring Valley. From what I've heard, they're still dealing with some sickness from last week that kept them out. And it's important to note that, 9th through 12th grade high school football program at Sherrard, there's 34 kids on the roster. And last week, there were double digits that were not going to be able to play, whether they were sick or hurt, or maybe a mixture of both for some of them. And a lot of those kids are two-way starters. And, you just don't want to, in a varsity game, have to throw a bunch of freshman kids, sophomore kids that aren't ready to play out there, especially when you're going to play a team the caliber of Princeton like Sherrard was last week. It's a tough decision. I know you hate to have to make it like they did last Friday. I'm really hoping they're able to play this week just because it's hard to me if you have to cancel 2 weeks in a row. To me, it's hard seeing you come back because there it feels like you start to maybe lose some kids in terms of, the ones who maybe are kind of borderline fringe, don't play a whole lot of snaps. You start wondering, why am I coming to practice every day if we're not playing? So like I said, from what I've heard, they're planning to make the trip and play at Hall on Friday. I've got no indication from anybody that they're, going to forfeit again this week. And like you talked about, I echo, for the kids' sake, I hope they get to go out there and play because, football is a tough sport and there are numbers that are kind of slipping. It's kind of a trend where programs nowadays don't have the numbers they do or did, I should say, in the past. So I'm hoping that Sherrard's able to get out there and the kids that are playing football for them get the chance to experience, some more varsity games before the end of the season.
Absolutely. A couple other games that we didn't talk a bunch about, but Mendota at Monmouth Roseville and Mercer County at Riverdale. For me, Monmouth Roseville's just kind of one of those programs right now that they do what they do. You know what you're going to get. You expect it. I expect them to have a big Friday night and get to 4-0 on the season. And Coach Adolphson and those guys do a fantastic job down there. Obviously, you'll be on the call of Mercer County and Riverdale up at beautiful. So will we be stopping by? Like, are you having dinner with Brian Stocking ahead of the game? Like a nightcap afterwards? How does that all work? You're in the home of Brian Stocking.
Now, the only issue I've heard about that is I believe Brian Stocking, and you can probably attest to this more than I can, doesn't he get to like the WQAD studios at like noon on the day of games, right? So like,
he comes
I'm not going to be able to get up there that soon.
Yeah. Nope, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. You're
right.
right.
I'd love to get the chance to meet up with Stocking in Port Byron, but he'll probably have vacated the premises by then. And then I know he's like at WQAD from like noon until like 3 a.m.
Yes.
Right? I mean, thank God they're not paying him by the hour, right?
There were times that they might be but there were times I left and I'm like, we're leaving Stockpile in the building all by himself. Like, I don't even know what's going on. He could pop a button on and have the Brian Stocking show at 2 a.m. for all I know. And I'd watch the heck out of it. I'll tell you that for sure. In that game and in Riverdale, Riverdale obviously wanting to bounce back. And then Mercer County's got to find some victories. They got to start finding some wins if they want to play in the postseason and all those kind of things. A big game up on WRMJ as well.
Yeah, it is. And to me, it's really important, I think, not just for the season for Mercer County, but for where the program is heading, because last year they went 4-5, missed the playoffs. Already one of their wins from last year turned into a loss last week, dropping a game to Orion, which they beat the Chargers last year. And it just feels like that Riverdale program is ascending. We've talked about it, a few years ago they had to cancel the season. They've steadily got better. Their younger levels are really strong too. Where Mercer County, it just feels like it's almost like coming into this game, it's like two ships passing each other. You know what I mean? So it's really important for Mercer County not just to, try to win the game, but I think to be somewhat competitive, because they weren't really last week against Orion. And for Riverdale, it's kind of a different story because it feels like the vibes around Mercer County aren't great just because of what the historical success in that program has been as to compared to what, last year was and what this year is off to. Where Riverdale, they're so hungry for winning games and so hungry to try to get to the playoffs. There's going to be a ton of excitement at that game, getting to play at home. And, for them, if they're able to get off to a 3-1 start, I know they still have games coming up against Sherrard, who we talked about, who's struggling this year. That should be, definitely a winnable game for them. They play Hall at the end of the year, which feels winnable. That, if you have 3, you feel like if you have 3 after this week, you feel like you have a good chance to get 5. Plus, I still think Riverdale can compete very well with Erie Provincetown, who they beat last year. And Orion feels like it should be a competitive game for Riverdale this year too. Yeah. So big one for both teams. Definitely, I think Mercer County, though, their backs are absolutely against the wall with what their schedule is still to come. They have 2 losses. They still play Riverdale this week, Erie Provincetown next week. And then you look down the line, then it's Newman, Rockridge, Princeton in consecutive weeks. So it's really tough sledding for them to try to find their footing. So feels like to me definitely a must win for Mercer County this week. And for Riverdale, it would be a huge win to get if they're able to get to 3 wins just 4 weeks into the year.
Yeah, I get to go to Port Byron next Friday for Orion and Riverdale. I'm doing the game from MC22, so I'm super excited about that. Should be a bunch of fun up there and a really good environment and all that kind of stuff as well. Okay, before I let you go, I had a goofy question for Kale and Owen. A race between Chip Filler and Dave Voorhees. So I have a fun one for you. We got 40-yard dash, and the one and only Jim Taylor comes walking out and lines up at the line. And then out of nowhere, like the glass breaks, I feel like a Stone Cold moment, and then Brian Stocking comes walking out. Ooh. And it's Brian Stocking versus Jim Taylor in a 40-yard dash. Who wins and why?
Boy, that is a good question.
2 very influential people. I know you hold up both of them dear to your heart.
I do. I hold both my father and Brian Stocking very dear to my heart. That's correct. And, I want to take Stocking because, my dad, he's had a knee surgery. He jogs still, doesn't maybe jog more walks / meanders, when he exercises around Toledo. I'll see him around every now and then when I'm driving in town. And, he does not move great, that's for sure. So I'm going to give the edge to Stocking.
Wow.
By a slight edge. But I will say both 40 times definitely probably wouldn't register at the NFL Combine, that's for sure.
I don't know if Stocking finishes. I don't know if he gets to the 4. I don't know. He might start talking. And they both start talking to each other, and they might not even finish. They might just say, skip it, let's go. So, no, awesome. Both are awesome.
They might talk about like 1980s Major League Baseball stuff maybe. So
yeah. And they'd love it. They'd love every minute of it. Ty, I appreciate this. We'll do it again next week. Have you gotten the invite this week? Are you hopping on or no? Do you know?
I have not got the invite yet. It'll be tough for me to make just because Right. It just is probably tough coming home from Port Byron. You know what I mean? Yeah, I don't know what the internet signal is like on the drive home. And maybe I shouldn't be like on my phone in a video call while I'm driving all the way home.
But I will tell people.
Hopefully the Rock Island County Sheriff's Department isn't listening to this.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, obviously it's a fun time. And I'm going to try to get on there again this week as well. I should be able to. I got the Iowa tailgate show, so I'll be finishing up with that and come back. But yeah, anyways, View from the West Instant Pod. I like how I'm going through my schedule in my own head as I'm like doing a show. It makes a lot of sense. But anyways, View from the West Instant Pod, ton of fun. Ty and I were part of it last week. I'm trying to be part of it every single week as well. I know Ty is as well. So make sure you check that out. YouTube 10:15, and then WRMJ. It's Mercer County, Riverdale on the radio, and then you'll also have Orion's games and Sherrard game and Rockridge game.
Correct, yes.
Dang. One place to be, WRMJ. I appreciate you, my friend. One of these weeks soon. You're here, okay?
I will be there. I can't wait to do it. I get to sit in the chair that Brian Stocking once sat in live on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. That'll be quite an honor.
It's a big thing. So, all right, buddy, be good. That is Ty Taylor joining us, breaking down the Three Rivers Conference each and every week with us, and it's been a bunch of fun, and it's a really good conference, and it'll be great games this week, and he's got me already now thinking about Rockbridge Newman next week, which I can do because I got no skin in the game, but they can't. They got to get their jobs done and take care of business this week. So we got more to get to. Coming up after the break, we'll check in with Marc Nesseler and do a little Ness Guess, all that and much more. You're watching Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a Wednesday in the Quad Cities.
Relationships, including the influence of the coach. Hello, Dan Pearson here of FCA. Our team is thrilled to support Off the Air with our good friend Matt Randazzo. We share the view of the power of sport when it comes to relationships, including the influence of the coach. FCA believes the coach is the most influential person in America. Matt celebrates local coaches and athletes. His content is informational, insightful, and inspirational. Our Fellowship of Christian Athlete team loves partnering with Off the Air with Matt Randazzo while we engage, equip, and empower coaches and athletes in our 23 counties. FCA, the heart and soul in sports.
View from the West, the podcast covering Illinois high school football.
It's going to be a hard-hitting game. It's going to be great football.
Weekly analysis and reaction from around the western side of the state of Illinois.
This is the game we had circled when the year started.
Follow along on YouTube and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
It's big-time football out there tonight, and I know we can play big-time football.
View from the West. We got you covered.
Are you looking for the Quad City's best chips and salsa? There's only one dude to turn to.
Right on.
Snoop. Hand-cut chips, fried fresh with that crunch you've come to love. And the most addicting salsa with delicious fresh ingredients each and every time. Pick up your chips and salsa, queso, enchiladas, and much more at the Stern Center in Rock Island. To place your order, simply call the man himself. It's Snoop at 309-314-8197 and find out for yourself what the rest of the Quad Cities already loves. We are back with Ness Guess Week 3, the one and only Marc Nesseler joining me right now.
Nice.
Anyone wondering what the heck we're doing, Ness Guess, a long-running tradition here in the Quad Cities, nearly 40 years of doing it.
Yeah, 37 years.
And we're bringing it back, and it's been better than ever.
It's so much fun.
Week 1 was great. The entries were up in Week 2, so
nice,
we're super excited about that.
That was our goal.
And we're just starting.
Huh? I know.
Week 3
we're
is
just
going to be
kicking
bigger
it off.
and better than ever. We're here at the Hungry Hobo Browning Field, and this brings back little memories, little nostalgia.
It does, because like covering the Maroons over at the football stadium, I would come over here afterwards and write my story here instead of going to the office because it's close. So I didn't have a particular booth like I had in Rock Island, but you know, after a game you get what you can take.
Yeah.
As long as people were okay with me tapping on the laptop. But yeah, this is nice. This is nice.
It's nice. We can't thank Hungry Hobo enough, the exclusive sponsor for our Ness Guests with Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. So we've loved it so far. Our Week 1 winner was Cesar Sanchez. Our Week 2 winner is Kyle Karsten. And you're smiling because I'm pretty sure you probably taught him.
I think I taught him. I coached. Probably covered it. I'm sure I covered him, and I believe I coached against him, or probably I go back Craig Karstens, that whole family Karstens. So the name is familiar, and I know Kyle's been I'm pretty sure he was a Ness Guess entry often.
Yeah.
So he's back in business and a winner.
Yeah. He wins, so he picks up some great prizes from Hungry Hobo. That's the beauty part. So basically you go to the link, you click on it, simple as can be. We do about 5 college games, and then we were doing a smaller amount of NFL games. I just said, screw it this week. Let's put them all on there.
Back in the newspaper day, we had to limit our space.
Yeah.
But 15 games. But no, we go back to the beginning where I did 50 games.
This is the beauty of streaming. There's no no limit on time, no limit on what we're going to say, all that kind of stuff as well. So excited for everyone to continue. Please keep participating as well.
Yep.
We're having a lot of fun. Now, here's my issue, Ness, is that I keep losing.
Well, And I got bad news for you, man.
Yeah.
I haven't won 2 weeks in a row in 7 years. Not since 2018. I haven't won 2 weeks in a row. And so it feels so good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been that long.
I just want it to be entertaining, and I'm worried that you're going to pull away, and by halfway through this
I don't think I'm only up 4 now.
Okay, yeah.
2 the first week, 2 this week.
And we didn't have a lot different. The first week was great. We kind of went all over the place. We had different things and all those kind of stuff.
5 different, and we mixed and matched. We only had 2 different. I won them both. But here's the thing, Matt.
They're both close. The best 2 games.
The first game was Georgia, Tennessee. And I went on, and I don't know where I was, but I checked my cell, and I saw Tennessee was up like 21-3 or 21-0.
Yeah.
And then I looked at the stats, and I see the Tennessee quarterback has 200 yards passing in the first quarter.
Yeah.
Now, doing the math, that's almost 800 yards passing. That's crazy. And so I said, no, I give up. I'm going to have to win the Eagles game to just break even. So, and Georgia goes, and I'm texting my wife, and she's got the game on TV. I'm away from a TV, and she goes, Georgia's got the ball. Georgia's, and then all of a sudden they win. So it's crazy. Eagles, I didn't expect to win that one either. I thought the Chiefs had that one. I'm glad to win. I thought you picked the Giants. For some reason, I thought that
I would never.
No, that's what I was going to say.
Not that I'm a huge Cowboys guy. I will say we both got the Lions right.
Yeah.
That was nice.
Well, that was easy.
That was nice. I enjoyed that game as well. But we're going to go back at it with another fresh group. We're going to pick out about 5 here and kind of talk about them a little bit. But again, 20 games online.
And then we'll post our winners.
Yeah. Just like it used to be back in the newspaper, where we'll have
read all about it
and really read about it, because I think that's the most fun. It is. Talk about that, because I think sometimes I chuckle while I'm writing it. Like, my kids get annoyed because week 1 I got done. I'm like, boys, I nailed this. I love these.
Look at this comment. Look at this comment.
And they looked at them. They're like, Dad, I don't know if you got that one right. I don't care if I got it right. The comment is good. I like the comment.
The comment is great.
So read along with us as well and all those kind of things as we keep rocking and rolling. I want to start in college. Because last week, first off, I got to talk about your attire. Because last week it was Illinois.
It was Illinois. This week is Western Illinois.
And your coordinator.
And I told you at the beginning I was going to wear a different hat every week. Illinois last week, and I get a message from my sister-in-law, who is the president of Western Illinois University.
Okay.
She's the top dog. She's the primo at the top.
I wonder
and
if
she says, and yeah, no kidding. She says, you have to do better on your hat. And I thought, well, I know that she's a Hawkeye fan.
Okay.
So I thought she's going to make me wear a Hawkeye hat.
Yeah.
I was really scared, because then I got all my Illini fans back in my good graces. And then I go the next week and go to Hawkeyes. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Christy has said, don't do that to me. So look, and she delivers it to my front door of my house, and there's a Western Illinois hat. And I was just beaming. I said, I can do this. I said, we have to put Western on our slate for next week. They play Eastern. But I had to look up my purple shirt.
Yeah.
I have a purple shirt to match my hat.
Yeah.
So go Leathernecks.
Yeah.
And you know what? I don't know if it's going to be one of the 5 games you talk about, but she's a big fan of one of the NFL teams.
We can make sure it's one of the ones.
We can add it.
We'll definitely add it.
Huh?
If I don't talk about it, you bring it up at the very end.
There you go.
I'll make sure
she already knows what it is.
Right.
So I've already tipped the scale there.
No.
But you don't know.
Before we start with this week's kind of games, I know the Spreets. So they were thrilled that you mentioned Travis last week.
Oh, yes.
The feedback has been amazing. So we appreciate it. We appreciate it online, the Facebook stuff, all those kind of things. And tell a friend. That's what I always tell people. If you're enjoying it and you love doing it, the best way to get this out and about is tell a friend and have them join in the fun.
And I'm glad you're grading it, because if I was grading it.
My wife is grading it.
Well, thank you, Jennifer.
Yes.
But if I was grading it, I'd go through every entry and try to recognize old names.
Yes.
And it would take me probably
But you would love
6 hours.
You would love it. There's times that I'll be like, my wife will be like, oh, this person just signed in.
Yeah.
I'm like, awesome, great. So again, if you're doing it and I know you, that's awesome. If we have no idea who you are, thank you for doing that as well.
I just want to know, is Kevin Corrigan entering back in 2025? Because he holds the record, and he's very proud of it, the all-time record for Ness Guess wins. I think it's like 7.
All right. Well, you've called him out now.
I called him out. There you go.
I'll make sure I get this on social media
Corman,
as well.
get in.
All right. We love it.
All right.
Well, this week's games, we did not put Iowa and Rutgers on the list.
They're on Friday
Normally
night.
we will, but it's a Friday. We don't want to we don't want to limit the entries.
Right. We want people to be able to enter till 11 o'clock on Saturday. Yeah.
So we didn't put the Hawkeyes in. Boy, it's a bit. You had your Illini gear on last week.
I did.
Indiana, Illinois, down in Indiana.
Yeah.
Number 9 versus number 19. People talk about it being almost like an elimination game for that national playoff.
Yeah.
2 basketball. We should be talking about like February in Assembly Hall
maybe
or something.
we will be. Maybe we'll do.
Your thoughts.
I used to do basketball.
Your thoughts on the Illini?
Indiana's favored, but research a little deeper that I went. Indiana has not played a top 10 team when they are ranked. It's the first time ever.
Oh, wow.
So I think a little case of the nerves. I'm going to go Illini.
Okay.
Of course, I have to go Illini because, I don't want to get in trouble.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go Illini, even though they're an underdog, just based on the fact that Indiana may choke up a little bit, playing under the pressure of such a high-profile game.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. It's got to be one of the games of the week.
It is nationally.
Yeah.
And I think Indiana, this is weird. They're a little more used to it because they were in this situation last year, making the college football playoff last year as well. It's at their place.
Yeah, and that's a big thing,
too. It's
too.
a night game. Honestly, Ness, I want Illinois to win. I think they will. I like Brett Bielema, love Matthew Bailey, love Cole Rush.
Yeah,
so I don't want to get in trouble with all those kind of things.
And he won't.
But I'm 4 down. And while I'm not desperate, I do think this is a coin toss type of game. And if you're going to tell me,
I'm giving you the favorite.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is I'm going to get the night team at home on a prime time. I kind of like not the night team, but the home team at night in prime time.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take Indiana.
Yeah.
And I'll take the Bullets. I'm the Iowa pregame guy anyway. So
I like that you're like playing from behind. It's like you have to pass on every down.
Yeah.
You're not running the ball at all. I can just set up my defense.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Okay, we're going to stay in the Big Ten. We have 5 games in college football. Illinois, Indiana.
I know where you're going
Michigan,
on this.
Nebraska, Auburn, Oklahoma, Michigan State, USC, and Purdue and Notre Dame. But I'm really intrigued with Michigan and Nebraska.
I knew it.
I'm really intrigued with – because Ness, I'm going to say this nicely. You're a little older than I am.
Yeah.
So, I remember the Nebraska glory days to an extent, but I think they're so far removed that I think that fan base is just laughable sometimes.
Yeah.
They need a victory. They need a signature win. Do they get it done? Michigan, Nebraska, in Lincoln.
To me, this is an easy one. Not from the standpoint of picking a winner or it all depends, like you said, on the comment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Illinois fans, I can upset. West Illinois fans, I could upset even though I'm wearing a hat. Michigan is the team of my boss, the superintendent of my school. And I cannot even, they're favored, I think, by a couple, maybe one. I have to go Wolverines.
Okay.
If Ohio State was on there, the athletic director that took he's an Ohio State fan. So those are 2 schools that I really like. If I'm going to show up 5 days, Monday through Friday,
you better make people happy.
I gotta make them smile. So I'm going to take Michigan.
You know what? I just don't trust Nebraska yet. I saw them against Cincinnati. They should have lost that game.
Yeah.
Just that entire program, and it's maybe the Iowa fan in me because Nebraska's starting to annoy me more and more.
Yeah.
It's a rivalry between Iowa and Nebraska, but it's not because Nebraska never wins it.
Yeah.
You
got to go back to Osborne as the coach, and anytime after he left, Michigan's automatic.
Yes.
And it's not really automatic this time.
No, I don't think it is. And eventually Nebraska's got to win a signature game and win something at home. I just don't think it's this week, and I want to see it to believe it. I know we want to be different, but I'm going to go Michigan as well. Plus, I'm a Detroit Lions fan, so I don't hate it.
There you go. And I would say that this is one of those games where if we were entering, I would pick Michigan.
Yeah.
I'm not just picking Michigan because my boss, but I'm picking Michigan because I actually find it hard to believe that Nebraska would ever beat Michigan, even at home, even in 2025.
Yeah, I'm surprised that they're that small of a favorite.
Yeah.
So
Right.
All right, so we're 1-1 where we have something different. Let's go to the NFL.
Okay.
We're going to start with, we're going to do 3 of them. I know we're doing my Lions and Ravens. Let's do Packers-Browns. Packers-Browns might be too easy.
Yeah, that's too easy.
How about this one? Bengals and Vikings.
Oh, see.
Backup quarterback versus
backup
quarterback.
JJ's out.
Yeah, JJ's out.
Quarterback for
Joe Burrow's out.
Joe
for 3
Burrow's
months.
out.
That's Chasey. Chasey's behind the camera helping us out. That's his fantasy quarterback, Ness.
Burrow.
So
sorry.
You can see him shaking his head right there.
Sorry.
He's not happy.
This is a game I had 3 question marks on the game.
Yeah.
And so you picked a good one. In this case, I have to go. Both quarterbacks are out, and I like Chase, the receiver for
Jamar Chase,
and then Jefferson.
Jefferson's
so that's a wash there. So I think with considering backup quarterbacks, star receivers, you got to go better defense. I think you have to go better defense, and I think you have to look at the coaching, and I give a slight edge to the coach of Minnesota. He looks like a kid.
I know.
He looks like a little kid.
Good.
Yeah, but he's good.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go Vikings. I don't even know what the spread is, but I'm going to go Vikings just based on defense and coaching, and all the other factors look to be even to me.
Yeah. No, I would. That's the thing is I think the defense on the Vikings side is better, and they're at home. And so it's not a new quarterback going on the road and playing. Carson Wentz has had success. I know he's not fantastic, but he's the backup. I hate to agree with you again. You're wearing purple. I hope the Bengals lose as a Lions fan. I'd love to see the Vikings lose. I hope the Bengals win and the Vikings lose. I'm going to go with Minnesota.
Well, here's the other thing. With the Bengals losing their quarterback, Burrow, and the Vikings losing J.J. McCarthy, the Bengals lose more.
Yeah.
I think Burrow's way better than J.J.
100%.
I thought J.J. was one of the tightest throwing quarterbacks in the first 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, he's down there toward the bottom.
Yeah. He had one good quarter. That fourth quarter.
Yep.
I mean, honestly, you look at the 8 quarters he's played, he's been really bad 7.
1 quarter, yep.
And he was really good for
So the Bengals actually lose more
Yes.
in the injury trade-off. So I'm still Vikings. I think we both nail it there.
All right. Okay, so let's talk about the Bears.
Bears.
And the Cowboys, because the Cowboys didn't look good. Like they barely squeaked by and beat the Giants, who I think is one of the worst 5 teams in football. Russell Wilson looked ridiculous all of a sudden. Found the fountain of youth. So it's a 3:00 game on Sunday.
Yeah.
Dallas at Chicago. I believe last week you said I'm never going to pick the Bears again.
I'm
wondering if that's a continuing kind of trend.
I hate it when you remember my words.
Exactly. That's what. Darn television.
I thought you were going to play that on Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure, and they're playing Purdue, and there's no way that I'm going to pick Purdue over Notre Dame. So
that's why we didn't
I'm taking Notre Dame.
That's almost
but
a little layup for
I thought for sure you were going to throw that back at me.
Yeah.
Say you have to pick Purdue because you said.
Yeah.
And so Bears, Cowboys. I'm going to pick. I was going to let you pick first.
Okay, I can pick one.
But
first.
no, but I'm going to pick first.
Okay.
Because I think I know what you're going to do.
Age for beauty is what they say.
Well,
I don't know if I got either.
I definitely have the age. I'm going to go Cowboys.
Okay.
Because I said that I wouldn't take the Bears. And the Bears did not look good last week. They haven't looked good yet. I'm still not a big quarterback fan, Williams.
Yeah.
I haven't seen him and JJ. I thought they were equally bad at both their games. Dak Prescott is so intriguing to me that he's got so much potential, and CeeDee Lamb has so much potential, and I really thought, okay, the Cowboys were my number 16 confidence pick last week.
Oh, okay.
Like I'm in a confidence pool.
So you had them as
and
the highest
I had the Cowboys that had to win in order to stay alive.
I think you put in your article like lock of the week or like confidence.
Lock of the week. Lock of the week.
Wow.
So I said, and they're down. And they need a field goal with 0 on the clock.
Yeah.
And then another field goal with 0 on the clock. Is that right?
Yeah.
Regulation and overtime 0. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, we were at Playcrafters watching Murder on the Nile. We're getting some culture. You know what I'm saying?
Culturing up off the air. Somebody's got to do it.
So anyway, I'm trying to sneak looks, but I can't turn my cell on.
Yeah.
So I check it afterwards. I said, Kathleen, you aren't going to believe this.
It was amazing.
The Cowboys won. I don't even know how they won.
Yeah.
But they won, and I said that was my number 16.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna put very little confidence.
Yes.
Very little confidence in the Cowboys.
No, I look at this and I everyone knows I don't like the Bears. So I don't want to pick the Bears. I don't want to be the same as you.
I would prefer to pick the Bears.
See, I don't want to be the same as you and but they lost Jalen Johnson for the year. Kyler Gordon's still out.
Yeah.
We don't know how healthy people are. That defense looked really bad. And the one thing the Cowboys are going to do is score.
Yeah.
I love the over in the game. I think there's going to be a lot of points. I think there's going to be a ton of points in the game.
Yeah.
And it's at Chicago, and if they don't win, they might be done already. But So they 12% of teams that start 0-2 make the postseason. And
Right.
That's what they are.
12%.
I don't even know what 0-3 is. 0-3 is even
has to be the worst.
So
has to be lower.
With that being said, just to spice things up a little bit, I'm going to say Ben Johnson bounces back and the Bears.
See, there's your reason, Ben Johnson. You got a line
and
connection.
if he learned anything from Dan Campbell, it's when everyone else is against you and everybody's backs are against the wall, you stay inside, you get better, you bounce back, and you win. I don't know why I just did that, but I'm gonna pick the Bears.
And I don't. If you would have gone first and picked the Cowboys, I would have picked the Bears.
See, this is
I really would.
Entertainment is what it is.
I really would. And I really thought I had Bears circled.
Yeah,
I have Bears circled on my paper.
Yeah.
But you laid it. You laid a smackdown on me.
Well,
and said you said
I'll take the last one then. I'll go first and last one. It's Monday Night Football. Here's what I love about Monday Night Football.
This is our next to last one.
Okay, yeah.
Unless you want to do mine and then
yeah.
Okay. It's Colts and Titans.
Colts have been good.
Well, yeah, Colts and Titans.
Colts are 2-0 on the season.
Yeah,
they won last week.
And they're
as
on the
well.
road.
On the
Lawrence is it? No, Titans is
Cam
Ward. Yeah, and playing okay.
Yeah,
playing okay.
And they're 0-2.
And they're 0-2 at home. But Christie, Western Illinois president, is a big Colts fan.
Okay.
I'll probably have to wear the Colts hat next week if they win.
All right.
If they win, Colts hat, maybe. It depends if I remember. It's a whole week away. I'll forget. I'm going to take the Colts just because I have to give her props for my Western hat. So you can take Colts too.
I'm going to take Colts because one, Christie, I'm kind of a Colts fan as well. Pat Anger, when he was drafted there and played there for 4 years, we sat there rooting for the Colts.
Yeah, that's
like
true
the organization, all those kind of things. So
and didn't they win at the very? They won with a penalty for like jumping up, which is never called. And the only time it's ever called is when the team that was supposed to win didn't make it, and they get a second chance. I just want to say, I'm pretty sure that's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, absolutely. Yep.
Okay. All right. Now we'll get to the last one.
Okay. So last one. I love it when my team plays on Monday night, not because of Monday Night Football. It means that simply on Sundays I can enjoy football and not be stressed out about my team. So I'm going to really enjoy my Sunday of watching football.
And then you'll stress out on.
And then I'll stress out on Monday.
Yeah.
I'll go first. Lions at Ravens. Twice, 2 times. The Lions have been embarrassed under recently. It was a couple years ago, the year they went to the NFC Championship game. They went to Baltimore, lost 41-6.
Yeah.
And then the other against the Packers week 1. Those are the only 2 times the Lions have been embarrassed in the last 3 years. I don't see it changing, but I'm going to pick my Lions. I'm not going to do the Ness Guess and not pick the Lions. So I'm going to take the Lions.
Well, you can make – there's a whole lot – I said this is one of the toughest weeks in NFL.
It's really
so
hard.
I think we're going to have a lot different. Yeah, and we're just not going to talk about them on the air.
Yeah.
Or off the air.
It's confusing, but yeah.
I know. I keep but anyway, you sold me as you were spieling.
Yeah.
And you said they lost 2 of them decidedly.
Yeah.
And you said Baltimore.
Yeah.
Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah.
I'm going to take Baltimore because you sold me on it. I'm going to blame you for me picking the Ravens.
No, you're right. And I'm going to pick the Lions for now. And then eventually I'm going to have to start get smarter down there.
I almost feel
but it's early still. So I'll still
it's way early.
Yeah. So we got a couple different.
And I'll have to owe you. I'll owe you one down the road, like when I should pick the Lions and I'll pick opposite.
I'm going to be mad about that Central Michigan pick come the end of the season.
Yeah, no
That's
kidding.
the one that I'm going to start kicking myself. Matt Drinkle's going to owe me like something for having to pick him. So, well, this has been a ton of fun. Again, week 3 of Ness Guess. When you're watching this, you're wondering how I figure it out. How do I get involved?
I have no idea.
You go to my Facebook account.
Yep.
You go to my social media, Twitter at
I will
Matt
share
Randazzo. You go to Ness's as well. Everything's right there. There's an easy link. Honestly, it takes what? Takes 5 minutes tops. You give me your name, number, and email, and then you just start clicking buttons.
Yep.
It's as easy as can be. The
20
charge
picks.
to get in, nothing. So
Free.
Nothing to and
just play for fun.
And the winner gets
and you can win
some
something.
great product from
Hungry Hobo. Here we
proud
go.
to be our sponsor for Ness Guess. Ness Guess is back on Off the Air.
This
has been fun. Where are we gonna go next week?
Are we going to Milan?
Let's go Milan
next week. We got to do LeClaire.
We should start telling people when we're doing. We do these Tuesdays at 4. So stop
Tuesday
by and
at 4.
say hi.
I had some of my students say, hey, they knew I was going to do the podcast because we watched it today in class. Don't tell anybody else. Oh, sorry, I just did.
It's okay.
But they asked. They said, can we watch it? And I said, last 10 minutes of class.
Yeah.
We'll watch 10 minutes of it. And they said they didn't realize.
I'm wondering why you were not watching it every day, Ness.
Well, I
why
mean-
is that not part of the curriculum?
It could be a part of it.
I told Thomas Smith, the baseball coach at Alleman, I'm like, it should be up at Alleman on every, as they go through the hallway.
I think my
Like, I'm an
seniors,
alum.
my seniors are going to ask for it every Wednesday or Thursday.
We'll take it.
It'll be Thursday.
We'll take it.
It goes, yeah. So it'll be part of my curriculum.
I love it. I love it.
But you know what? It's a business class anyway.
Yes.
So and it's all math. This is math. So it does
I
fit
tell
in.
my wife
It
all the
does
time,
fit
my
in.
kids, if they listen to Daddy when it comes to certain sports stuff, they'll be much smarter in math.
And I picked Michigan,
Yeah.
so that's a plus
So yeah,
for not getting in trouble.
when you get called down to the principal's office, you'll be okay. So
I picked Michigan.
there you go. There you go. All right, he's Marc Nesseler, Ness Guess. Go check it out online and get signed up as soon as we can. Thank you once again to Hungry Hobo for letting us do this each and every week. We got more to get to. You're watching Off the Air on a Wednesday right here in the Quad Cities. All right, be honest. Are you craving Hungry Hobo again? You know, that fresh sliced meat piled high on those amazing sandwiches, hot off the grill chicken and steak with all those delicious toppings, the biggest and best selection of baked potatoes, or simply some waffle fries dipped in cheese. Well, now that Quad City favorite is even easier to get. Download the Hungry Hobo app today. Order ahead, skip the line, and earn rewards all at the same time. There's Double Points Monday and exclusive specials as well. With 12 locations in the Quad City area, it's Hungry Hobo. Now even easier to find, but still hard to resist.
Rafferty Funeral Home, dedicated to serving families in the Quad Cities since 2007.
Hi, welcome. Yeah, come on in.
An experienced staff plans each service to reflect the unique life and legacy of your loved one. Rafferty Funeral Home is proud to serve our community with dignity, respect, and compassion, helping you to celebrate your traditions and lasting memories no matter your faith, culture, or budget. Rafferty Funeral Home in Moline. Call today to discuss prearrangements.
When it comes to quality, convenient pizza, Godfather's Pizza in Silvis has you covered. Featuring a beautiful dine-in area, delivery, and a carry-out window. Godfather's Pizza is that pizza you grew up with, not a convenience store. You see, at Godfather's Pizza, the dough is made fresh daily. That mozzarella cheese is shredded fresh and never frozen. And those toppings are abundantly piled high each and every time. Locally owned and operated since 2010, Godfather's is a huge supporter of local athletes right here in the Quad Cities. So come on by and check them out at 1211 Avenue of the Cities in Silvis. Order online at godfathers.com and reunite with that same delicious pizza you grew up with. Welcome back to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a Wednesday. Thank you guys so much for joining us throughout the show. It's been a ton of fun. We've had a really good time. Of course, Jake Brend joining us off the talk. Talking Cyclones, also talk some Cubs. I will let you guys know the Cubs already up 1-0 today. So if you're finishing up watching the show, go watch the Cubs like I will be doing for a little bit this afternoon before I get busy with kids stuff. Great chat with Jake Brend about Iowa State on the bye week and kind of looking what we've learned about them in the first third of the season. So also we had Kyle Huesmann talking Iowa women's basketball. He just recently sat down with Jan Jensen and had a great talk with her, a great chat with Coach Jensen about herself year one as head coach and then moving forward. So great insight from Kyle there as well. Ty Taylor, a Wednesday tradition, breaking down the track. And then Marc Nesseler. Ness Guess is back. It'll be up on my social media here in 20 minutes. So get there, click it, fill it out, win some great Hobo prizes, and partake in a Quad City tradition, nearly 40 years of doing it. It's been away for too long. We got it back right here on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. Coming up on Friday, we're going to hit the road once again. Again, last week, because of the pneumonia, we didn't make it out and about, but we're going to head to Assumption High School on Friday. That'll be a bunch of fun. Mobile Party Experience will be with me with a party trailer. We'll have some food, interviews, break down all the high school football you need to know. We'll get some college picks in as well. So we'll have a party. Have a blast coming up on Friday at Assumption High School. Also, don't forget the View from the West podcast Instant Reacts is every Friday night at 10:15. Really, it's the only place to get your high school football coverage. And I mean that. It has great insight, coaches' interviews, more than just a first down and a touchdown. It's got a lot of great stuff. So check it out each and every Friday at 10:15. If you're not subscribed to View from the West on the YouTube channel, do that as well. While you're also subscribing to this one as well, of course. So make sure we're doing that. And then, of course, Friday, the Hawkeyes play on the road at Rutgers. We will be at Big Grove Brewery for the Hawkeye Tailgate Show on the Hawkeye Radio Network at 5 o'clock. So if you're in the Iowa City area on Friday evening, stop by. We'll have a few guests. We'll have a bunch of fun. We'll have some good food. We'll have some good drinks as well. So make sure you check us out. So my Friday is going to be a live show at Assumption, the Hawkeye Tailgate Show, and then we'll wrap it up with a View from the West Instant Pod. So good thing I got my voice these days. Maybe good for me, maybe bad for you guys. Who knows? So appreciate you guys watching. Once again, however you do watch, we appreciate it, whether it's on X, the podcasting platforms, or YouTube. Thank you for your support. Thank you to the sponsors for allowing us to do this. Tomorrow on the show, we'll chat with Ken Prince and a whole bunch more. Full show tomorrow, and then we're on the road on Friday once again. So thank you guys for watching. We appreciate it, and we'll see you back here for a Thursday edition of OTA coming up tomorrow.